Live.
Beautiful. Well, good morning to you, sir,
Morning to you, sir.
and good afternoon or good evening to anyone who might be watching this at
In
some
the
other point in
afternoon.
time or from a different time zone.
Yep, or country or what have you.
Wild. So, welcome back to This Podcast Will Become Your Tomb. We're continuing on through Sleep Token's discography. If I'm not mistaken, we are picking it back up with The Way That You Were. And then we're
That's
going to
correct.
get at least one, maybe two songs from Sundowning. And that's kind of the plan, the loose plan, as such as it is for the day.
Yes.
Um, all right. Any comments or questions from the peanut gallery before we get going?
Peanut Gallery doesn't appear to be here yet, so none at the moment.
Oh, okay. All right. Would you like to speak for the peanut gallery?
The Peanut Gallery wishes the baby well.
No. Thank you, Peanuts.
And they also tend to like Token Pony.
Well, a classic,
I
classic
know, right?
character
I
from
think
from the ancient lore.
exactly.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right.
All right.
Well then, I
Let's just
guess
kick, let's kick it off.
let's just do it.
Does The Way That You Were have a music video or is it?
It does.
Oh, well, awesome.
Yeah. 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 Or well, we'll see if it does today, but it should.
It once did.
We are not young enough to know how to sit and say nothing like we would. And you are too tired to control how you look like you feel like you should. When you think I don't notice the way that you wear and act like you don't feel it, the way that you wear and you barely believe it, the way that you wear. And I am so ready.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So I think that's the second verse. So, uh, any thoughts so far?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you wanted to start briefly with the like we talked a lot last time about the different organ
Mm.
sounds and the different possible like keyboards they were using to make those. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about like the connection to this as opposed to like the one that's in Jaws or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously, I think, going for some kind of a church organ sound. Um, Not necessarily like full on giant pipe organ. It's almost like a Hammond B3 or something like that, like the baseball stadium organ, kind of. It's a little bit less cheesy than that, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but it's got like this really nice balance between um, sustains and all of the cool mixing overtones and stuff that you get with an organ and the like percussive start to each note. So there's it's almost what like an electric piano is going for as far as like the attack on the note. Like there's this really clean start to each note, and then it's got this really wonderful sustain that goes along with it. Uh, and also, as with Hammond B3, which is commonly has a rotary type of speaker on it, so that like the speaker actually has some built-in parts that spin, so that you get this sort of like warbly effect. And there's a little bit of that going on in here, whether it's post processing or what, I don't know. But there's a little bit of that, which kind of adds to the size of the sound, makes it sound like it's kind of echoing off the walls of a big church or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess I wanted to kind of introduce something that we're gonna be dealing with, I think, through most of the Sundowning, and then probably following that too, as far as some Jungian notions.
Oh, okay.
Basically, I think that there is so Jung, Jung, Carl Jung, the psychologist, mythologist, literary uh, analyst, has some concepts that might be helpful in kind of understanding, or at least to a way to look at what's going on with this song, right?
Hmm.
There's an idea of the anima or the animus, which is kind of the interior notion of the other inside yourself. And so the idea that there is, in order to be properly integrated into a fully functional human psychologically and within relation to the world, there needs to be some incorporation of this projection of the other kind of embodied in yourself. So in some sense, it's kind of like a ritualistic thing almost. The idea that we're taking in something beyond ourselves and we're trying to integrate that with ourselves. And I think the initial verse kind of goes into that to some extent, right?
Hmm.
We're not young enough to know how to sit and say nothing like we would, and you're still too tired to control how you look like you feel like you should. You think I don't notice. So there is this idea of the other and the projection and the noticing of the other and the reflection of the other in the self. And I guess we'll go when we get to the second verse and things about the wounding and the trauma and the taking off your bandages and kind of revealing and integrating the past trauma and the wound in a kind of ritualistic sense. It kind of moves further into the a Jungian notion of integration and of advancement. And I think if we're talking about like the idea of vessel and the deity in this kind of embodying each other, this possession, this ritual, this consuming, that it's easy to see a way that this is kind of related to the same integration, the same notion of integration. And we'll go through that more in the future, but that's kind of just a little taste and flavor to kind of look at the first verse through, maybe.
Okay. That's a lot to chew on. Okay.
It's a whole mouthful.
All right. I'm going to just back up maybe to the chorus. We'll take it. Yeah. All right. Cool. Think about that while we listen to some more.
When you think I don't notice the way that you wear and act like you don't feel it, the way that you wear and you barely believe it, the way that you wear.
Okay. So
Hmm.
I think one really effective thing, something that I like about this is almost like at every transition from a verse to a chorus and in and out of the sections, uh, everything drops out completely for a moment before it starts over, which, I mean, that's something that we've already seen them do arrangement wise for some of the heavier songs is like the build up to a really heavy part and then it'll drop so that when the beat drops for the heavier section, it's more effective. But this is a much more sparse, not big heavy song at all, totally opposite sort of a thing. So it's almost like, to me it feels like the like having the air sucked out of my lungs or something. It's like I can't catch my breath. Uh, like you get all of this long sustained harmony from the organ and everything, and then it all just, and then you sort of get a little bit more. But it's this, the I don't know, like heart heart wrenching drop, sort of.
Well, and kind of to that point too, you're talking about before the notion of the space of the kind of cathedral we're located in, and the church organ and everything that's building up that sense of the space being filled,
Yeah,
and then to collapse it all down to that complete stop, only to fill it back up again is more effective because there is like a sonic, a soundscape that you're kind of inhabiting.
yeah,
It's not just, it's not just, music being played at Woodstock. It's like a space that's being created by the sound and the
mhm.
textures, and then it's going away and then filling that space back up again.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was sort of, this is the first time this has ever happened listening to this song for me, where because I think because of your question about the organ sounds and everything, maybe just triggered this, but it felt much more like if you've ever been to a funeral at like a cathedral at a like a Catholic funeral mass or something like that. There's often a lot of organ music going on, as everybody's like going up for the viewing and to pay their respects and all that sort of stuff. And it's very much this kind of somber. There's light and dark. There's some joy mixed in, because our dearly departed has gone on to a better place or whatever. And so the organ music is going to try to capture some of that mix of emotions, um, to facilitate that process of mourning or whatever. Um, and I was kind of struck by that, especially in the second verse and into the second chorus. That like that was really how I was hearing the organs at that point. Is that the tone? It was not like the cheesy baseball field organ and not the big raucous church organ. It's this understated sort of like for a funeral service kind of, yeah. And I think that
Well, I think,
goes to what you were saying.
yeah, I totally agree. And I think too, especially as we get into the lyrics of the second verse, the idea of, because part of the whole Jungian thing too is part of that incorporation of the persona or the animus, that which is outside of you being incorporated into yourself, acknowledges both kind of a death of the projection of your false views of reality into the world, the way you would want the world to be,
Mm.
an acknowledgement of the way the world is, and then kind of that integration, that supplanting of, the idealized version of the world into the reality. And there is kind of a death and a rebirth that goes on, in the inner life, the psyche, the soul, the spiritual being of the human, that goes through that journey and through that progression.
Mm.
And so I think it's very interesting, though, the way the verse opens, to tear the knife from what once would have been dead fingers. So you have this very weird subjunctive, tense that's being used here. What once would have been dead fingers. So they're not now dead fingers, and they only would have been that potentiality was never fulfilled. But then we have the great imagery lying blue against the floor, and you will no longer stand between collapsing walls wearing a smile like you cannot bear it anymore. I think it's just very interesting too in the Jungian notion, the idea that we're projecting to the outside world this mask, this facade, this persona of wholeness, of completeness, but we haven't integrated like the shadow, the evil, the all the fractured parts of human identity into ourselves yet. So I think a very apt image for that is the standing between collapsing walls, wearing a smile like you can't bear it anymore. Like there's a level of performativity to like standing in collapsing walls and wearing a smile. It's kind of, it's almost paradoxical, but it's proving the point about these almost diametrically opposed notions of ourself and the world, and how these kind of have to be integrated or embodied in order to get through it in a proper, not proper is not the right word, in an integrated manner that allows one to survive in society and not be a complete wreck, spiritually and psychologically.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. So, um, I know like Jung wrote a lot. Is is there like a particular place in Jung's writing that one could go to find some kind of a well, him covering this sort of material in particular,
There,
or
there is. One sec. Let me. I have it right here in my. I have the whole PDF here. Let me real quick.
okay.
Let me get the citation.
I mean, I don't need a specific
Well,
citation,
no,
just
but
like
you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Do, 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 do. Yeah. So, it's in Ion, Aion,
yeah.
psychological types, and archetypes and collective consciousness are the two places where this really. I think if you want to start off, archetypes in the collective unconscious
Hmm.
is probably the best, the most accessible Jungian thing to read, especially if we're talking about like mythology. And Jung floats this very interesting um, notion in that work about what myth is. That myth in general is the collective unconsciousness of humanity. It's it's an unspoken but collectively acknowledged history of human development, human society, human culture, that whether we're living in 2026 or 1800 or 1400 or 800 or 800 BC, right? The collective experience of humanity is kind of undergirding all of our interaction with reality and interaction with the world. And myths are an expression of that collective unconscious.
Hmm. Okay.
And to the point is, so let me give you a concrete example, is myths oftentimes deal with a moment of cultural trauma, cultural devastation, something that is very dangerous to society or to life as a whole or to a culture. So, for example, the myths about the Trojan War, or the myths about the Trojan War and the heroes, and how the gods were intervening in the war, and the only reason that, and how you don't piss off the gods because you have to do proper sacrifice, because otherwise they're going to screw you up and none of your soldiers will get home. You have to sacrifice more virgins. It becomes a problem, because the idea is that the war against Troy from the Greeks, is a culturally devastating moment. Less than one third, according to historical accounts, of the soldiers who went to Troy from Greece came back. So it's almost like a World War One level population and cultural catastrophe, that all of a sudden all the lords and all the young men were all dead over in Troy in Turkey. And Greece was in a deep moment of crisis because none of the leaders and very few of the young men even made it back from Troy, and it was a multi-generational conflict. And so the fact this is embodied in a myth that gives the story of the different heroes and the gods intervening and kind of gives an explanation through Helen's capture by Paris and yada yada yada, right, is a mythical explanation and a parsing over which was a deep moment of cultural and civilizational crisis for the Greek city-states.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of gets encoded in this collective unconscious myth that explains why everything went so sideways and crazy and why things are for a number of generations following that time period, right?
Right.
So unhinged in Greece itself.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
that's its
Yeah. Okay. And like, so in that understanding of what myth is,
Mm.
what are the gods like? Because I know that like Jung develops this idea of the archetypes a lot, and I know that that is in some way related to the gods. Um, my understanding is that it's sort of like the. No, I haven't really read much Jung myself, so this is my understanding.
Well, you play instruments, so that's, forgivable.
Okay. Um, but that similar to what your description of what myth is this kind of distillation of this event so that it can be explained across generations, so the lessons learned can be carried on, and they function for other things too. But that's sort of was my takeaway. The gods are kind of these distillations of the main active forces in those myths. So it's sort of like there are all of these characters that you mentioned, but you could kind of distill certain aspects of their characters all together into one figure, and that figure would be a god. Like you could take all of the people acting justly and distill them all down into the character of Athena, who's gonna go and make sure that retributions are dealt out according to people's actions and all that sort of thing. But I don't know, is there anything
Yeah.
more to say?
So I think archetypes, like you're saying, are kind of the embodiment of a specific, kind of like the purification and distillation of a specific attribute that occurs across cultures, across the human experience, across time frames.
Mm,
So, for example, you have like the archetype one Jung talks about of Eros,
mm,
who's the god of love and lust,
right.
right? And there'll be some sort, whether or not you call it Eros or whether or not you call it Isis or whether or not you call it Kalika in the Hindu tradition, right? The goddess that embodies this unbalanced, lustful desire between humans. That becomes an archetype that represents an unbalanced, unintegrated human passion, human activity, human motivation for their actions in the world. And so archetypes are ways that we explain a certain pattern of behavior or a certain innate human attribute that's kind of been honed away and is focused on being only that thing, but to the nth degree.
Uh-huh.
And so you'll have different archetypes like the child, the mother, the father that have these different attributes that kind of accrue to them over time. But the thing is that about the archetype is the archetype itself, as far as Jung is concerned, is the same across all cultures and across all human history. It just takes a different name or a different form relevant to what that culture's set of circumstances, history, and beliefs are at any given point in time.
Sure. Okay. That really that makes a lot of sense in this discussion about like what the heck sleep is in Sleep Tokens mythology, because like that's more or less from that really in-depth interview that we got in the first podcast like for the Metal Hammer talking to Vessel about, it's like, what the heck are you guys doing with all these masks and satanic looking rituals and stuff. But like that explanation that sleep is this old god, this almost like Cthulhu type thing that is sort of like leaked down through the ages, and that it kind of might like rear its head as some god over here and some god over here. It sort of like pops up in different ways in different places and times, but it's sort of always present in the background, kind of a thing.
Well,
Um,
and that's one thing about gods in general, going back to Greece, back to Mesopotamia, to wherever, to Mesoamerica. A god, even if they're not acknowledged for a certain point in time, all gods want to be seen and sacrificed to. The type of sacrifice varies between your culture and your god, but all gods kind of want some sort of offering that acknowledges them and acknowledges their supremacy over whatever realm they are controlling or masters of or in battlement or in battle over,
yeah.
right? Like, and so old gods reemerge, new gods try to supplant them, the old gods fight back, and you end up with a stupid Marvel movie.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. That's a lot to consider. That's pretty cool. Um. Wow. So then, I mean, because these lyrics are also active on multiple levels, there's this, I mean, like the themes of death and rebirth and all that stuff come up all over the place. But in this one, this is, I don't know if this is the first time, but the um the theme of like dealing with suicidal thoughts or something like that is also kind of recurrent throughout Sleep Token's music, or like trying to come up with some kind of a reason to continue on living or something like that. Um,
Well, I think that goes to the integration of past traumas and past pain, of whether it's psychic or mental or like physical wounding, as the imagery here kind of goes into. Also, it goes into a lot of trauma and abuse, possibly these specific lyrics in this song, right?
mhm.
But the idea of how does one integrate that past trauma and past suffering, especially as the third verse here gets into, at the hands of others that one didn't deserve, undeserved pain, undeserved trauma in an unjust world that leaves scars and damage both internally and externally. Like, what are we to fucking do with that?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's a topic of a lot, like you're saying, a lot of Sleep Token songs, and whether or not it gets to the point of potential suicidal ideation if it's not integrated, or whether or not it's just leaves one in a state of, you know, exhaustion and unable to effectively engage with the world around you, as we kind of see here too, right? And the notion that you kind of have to deal with the damage. Like, will you show me the damage the way that you were, right? How much they hurt you the way that they were. With pain as your language, like you kind of have to make the pain and suffering and trauma integrated into yourself and like speak it as a language so that you can like integrate it and also be recognized. And that's a fucking tall task because trauma is a wound that like doesn't want to reveal of itself, but it also keeps the entire being of the person in the wounding in a continuous cycle. And so
Right.
like the only way to break that cycle is somehow to communicate about it, but that's the one thing that it wants you not to do.
Right. Yeah. 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 And like deep traumas also, like it's a integrating and working through a trauma is a really sort of paradoxical type of thing, because in many ways, I mean, I encountered this a lot with my research at the a rehab center in the Peruvian Amazon, which is another story about another life. But a lot of these people, and I mean, you know, myself and kind of everyone, I think to some extent, has that like they live with their trauma and it kind of becomes part of the way that they understand themselves. And in a way, like the trauma, you, you sort of feel like you can't let go of it, or maybe you don't want to let go of it or work through it because you don't know how to survive without it. Um, it is kind of part of how you engage with the world. And so it's like easy to get it confused with yourself. Like the person that you have become in order to survive the trauma is not necessarily the person that you need to be to move on in the future. And like reconciling those things is a really complex paradoxical process, because you need to let go of some really deep and important and useful parts of yourself in order to distance yourself from the trauma or to understand it better and then reintegrate it. But it's, I don't know. I do think that whole process is being dealt with here and on in Sleep Tokens music. But
Well, because if trauma becomes how you define yourself, because against all odds and through the trauma, you've gotten through it, and your body and your mind and your psyche and your spirit has survival instincts that make you very much cling to what you did to get through the trauma and still be alive.
right.
And so to have to let go of that and just distance yourself or integrate that part of yourself, which was the only thing that kept you alive and kept you functional during traumatic moments, you're trying to let go of the very thing that kept you going through the worst times.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it's something you need to integrate properly to move on and function at a higher level or to progress through your own development. But it's a place of complete vulnerability when you're being asked to let go of those very mechanisms that kept you going through the worst of it.
Right.
And then, but that's just the whole hero's journey too, right? Almost is you need to overcome the very tethers that are keeping you going in order to actually progress and develop. And so it's a paradox, and it takes at some point a leap in faith that you believe that you can let go of that which kept you alive in order to move past your present self into a more integrated and whole human being.
Yeah.
Which is fucking crazy, man.
It is. I mean, it is as a type of death.
Absolutely.
Which, yeah, I mean, and we haven't even addressed the music video at all, but I think it goes right along with all of this stuff that we've been talking about. And maybe I'll back it up and we can just watch and listen through a bit of it, because I think this music video is really interesting and worth trying to grapple with.
Let's knock it out.
Yeah. And then I guess just before we go in, that one more comment about the music, just like the details of the music, and then I think I don't really have a whole lot else to say about the music in this one. There is more to say, but I'm not going to. So they're kind of like basically two. There's a verse part and a chorus part, more or less, and for these organ chords. And one of the interesting things that it does, and that you can take advantage of the organ, is that it's got these like sustained upper notes. They're not super high pitched, but they're higher in pitch than what the other stuff that's going on. And is this okay? So it's got these moving lines. And then it hangs on this sustained chord while it moves underneath it. And so, like, what you'll hear, which is what I'm trying to point out, is that there's this contrast of sustaining and motion. And what's happening especially in the chorus, it's a little bit in both parts, but mostly in the chorus, that there's this, like, sustained note it's a D, I think. And so, like, whether it's in the pedals on the organ or what, I don't know. I don't play organ. But this higher note is sustained while all this other stuff is moving underneath it. And so it sort of, I don't know, integrates maybe musically kind of mimics this stuff that we're talking about, of like being stuck in one place while you're trying to move forward. And it sounds very somber, even when it like is playing major harmonies that might seem happier, because it's kind of like combining some really straightforward like major and minor chords in a couple of places. Let me see if I can remember how this goes. Yeah, there's some like little tensions is the wrong word. I don't think they're really like adding tension, but there's like trying to think of like a I think that's how the intro verse part goes. So something like that. There's this motion, and then it in the verse part it hangs on to this note, which is a B, while the other stuff moves. Sorry, I'm not speaking very articulately while I'm trying to remember how this goes.
No, you're fine. So like there's that sustained note, and while that is still sustained and going, other stuff is happening beneath it while that stays consistent.
Right.
I'm tracking.
Okay. But within that, so like these chords are pretty straightforward. But it starts with what you could hear is something of a tension note. So at the beginning, we don't really have a sense of grounding in a key or anything like that. And this song is kind of in the key of G or E minor. And instead of starting with just like a plain old E minor chord, it mixes in that note D that gets sustained. So it makes it like an E minor 7 chord. And then this would be a B minor chord, but it's inverted. So B is not in the bass.
Okay. And that D is being sustained?
It stays, yeah. So D is a note in both of those chords.
Neat.
And then it lands on... okay, this is one of the things that I was thinking about. So it lands on what seems like a C chord, but it sort of like... it steps out of it in a higher part in the... So it adds like a little bit of extra color to what would have been just kind of a boring chord. And then this is a G major chord. And this is where that sustained note comes in. This is a B. And then this is a D major chord, but again, it's inverted. So even though it would be like a really happy, kind of almost grand sounding sort of a chord, with that inversion, it like makes it sound almost minor. It's like it highlights the darker characters within the chord.
Sombrifies it.
Yeah, sombrifies it. There we go.
Technical term.
And then that steps down to like a full-on E minor chord that's really, just kind of desperate and sad sounding to me.
Right.
Okay. And then
sorry.
No.
Real quick, we had Ryan from last week is back in the chat.
All right.
He says, he says, my girlfriend relates to this song more the admitting of the effects of trauma than an attempt to integrate, as if I see you is important to a soul that would rather disappear. It's profound. No, absolutely. And that's part of, I think, the whole, you see that in the lyrics. Where the heck is it? Come on, tear off the bandage, the way that you were, with pain is your language, the way that you were, will you show me the damage? Like the wound itself has like a longing somehow, as much as it wants to hide, to be seen and to be experienced and to have recognition from the other, to see the wound and to not reject the person because of the wound, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I see you part is very much an important part of the integration of the inner workings, the anima, with the outside projection, the facade or the mask or the persona, that really is part of the journey from trauma to not trauma, or to being less traumatized than one previously was. So that's really very relevant. Ryan Scarlett says, that Scarlett has not heard the specific song in a while, and we have an interesting perspective on it. Oh yeah,
Well,
actually,
thanks.
Scarlett, the first three podcasts we covered every single and EP prior to the Sundowning. So you have some homework to do, Scarlett. But we already done it for you though.
Well, yeah. I mean, and it's our perspective. I mean, sometimes the weaving of conspiracy theories seems like it really fits and like we're onto something, but who
We
knows?
could be
It's
totally wrong.
meaningful to us.
Yes, we
Um,
promise you that we're saying things that are meaningful to us.
yeah. That I can guarantee. Um,
All right, so
yeah,
some music
very cool.
video rewatch.
Yeah. I'm gonna let's see. I don't know. Is it worth just going through the whole thing one time uninterrupted, just
I
to
mean,
watch the music video?
sure, it's not very long.
It's not very long.
We are not young enough to know how to sit and say nothing like we would. And you are too tired to control how you look like you feel like you should. When you think I don't notice the way that you wear and act like you don't feel it, the way that you wear and you barely believe it, the way that you wear.
Okay, I know I said I wasn't gonna interrupt it, but I'm interrupting.
Lies.
Yeah. So it is a D.
Okay.
That note that's sustained, I think, as hopefully it does the same thing the second time through the chorus. But as you get into the chorus, there's a lot of stuff going on, vocal parts and everything, but in the organ part, that note is just held out the entire chorus, while everything else is kind of going on, moving around it. So just something to listen for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Continuing on. Sorry, everybody.
And I am so ready to tear that knife from what once would have been dead fingers lying blue against the floor. And you will no longer stand between collapsing walls, wearing a smile like you can't bear it. And tear off the bandage, the way that you were with pain as your language, the way that you were when you showed me the damage, the way that you were. No. Well, how much did they hurt you? The way that you were, and how much did they break you? The way that you were, and how far did they take you? The way that you were, no.
Good old Loki Films.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. So
Yeah,
I think and that's the same actress from the Nazareth slash Jaws video too, right?
I think so.
I believe it's,
I
yeah.
I believe so.
I wonder if she
You have
has
to go back
some,
and check, but
it is, trust me on that.
okay. Oh, all right.
I wonder if they have some, if she's somebody somehow in the orbit of the vessels.
Of the vessels. Um, I think I don't know if it's her, but I'm remembering from that interview on what's that other podcast? There's another sleep token podcast. Some sleep talking. I think that's what the
Sleep.
podcast is called.
There you go.
Something like that. They interviewed the guy who directed and produced these music videos, and I think it might be his girlfriend or wife.
Okay, I figured there was some kind of.
Yeah, because I think
I mean,
she's
She
an
fits
actor.
well.
Yeah,
She fits well with the theme. Like her look and her aesthetic fit well.
yeah, yeah. So okay, at the end of the video, um, like after this part here, it's like she disappears, right?
Hmm.
So she was like never there, or he's at her funeral, or what? I'm just trying to understand like what.
I mean, the way that the video came off to me, at least, and I could, this is just my like viewing it, right?
Mhm.
It reminds me of like someone in church, like about to go to confession, or in church looking for this kind of out of their depth with what's going on, and like just looking for some sort of higher power or something to
Okay.
to intervene. And so if it's a, because in like Catholic confession, right? You sit there in, or you kneel there in the church the way she's doing. You do an examination of conscience. You consider everything that you've done wrong in the last time, since the last time you've heard your confession. You kind of make a list, and then you get up and you go into the priest and you confess your sins, and then he gives you absolution. Then you come out and say your penance, and then you bounce out. So it kind of looks like that kind of like reflective, reticent sort of thinking that she's doing. Alternatively, you can go to the church because that's apparently where God lives, and try to talk to him about, how fucked up things are.
Mhm.
So I mean, that's the kind of notion that I got from her affect as well as her presence in there. But yeah, she does. Um, I don't. Doesn't vanish. She's just not there after a certain point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I do think there's maybe it's a funeral or something. I don't know. The flowers, like the flower is
Mhm.
as a symbol of life, and there are broken flowers on the floor. There's some kind of like a death being dealt with or something. Some, I mean, maybe just trauma, some kind of broken damage to life or something like that. But like, let's see if I can.
I think there's that last verse, like with the broken flowers, the imagery kind of comes in mimetically, right? How much did they hurt you the way that you were? How much did they break you the way that you were? How far did they take you the way that you were?
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't think it's necessarily a death, or at least it's not a death that does not have the potential for rebirth,
Okay.
even though it's kind of the low point.
Well, yeah, I think, in, especially in Sleep Token, there's always potential for a rebirth, but
Yeah, that's what they do.
that's what they do. I'm just trying to find that.
When I saw the flowers.
Yeah, I saw the flowers. I didn't get the broken flowers, and it looks like it's the same kind of flower from the Jaws slash Nazareth
Yeah,
video.
no cockroach this time though.
Right, but even like the cockroach, what's the significance of that? I don't. I was thinking. I mean, cockroaches are often attracted by like dead things, rotting meat, those sorts of things, and it's like in that video, the cockroach is like on and next to and around a flower, and then in
Well,
this
and the girl,
video,
that cockroach is climbing all
well,
over the
right,
girl too.
right, well, okay, yeah, but like that's kind of the girl and the flower are
The
metaphorically
same.
interchangeable.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. Well, I don't know. You all have YouTube, I assume. If you're watching this, you've got YouTube or Spotify. You can find the
We're
flower
not live
stuff.
on Spotify, so
We're not. Um, okay. But yeah, I mean, he's like sitting behind her, watching her, singing this song to her, and right before she fades away, he's like reaching out to try to contact her
yeah.
at the end, and then she gone.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like stalker vessel. It's a little creep. But
Well, yeah.
I mean, if you think about it kind of in a way, right? If he is like the vessel in that Metal Hammer interview, they are like the ambassadors for the deity of sleep, and they're, looking for new acolytes, sort of. And maybe a way that this could be viewed, and I'm not saying this is definitive or correct, but that the level of trauma and the level of disintegration and the hurt, right, is a fertile ground to go find new acolytes for your deity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's how the Christians get you. That's how you know,
Right. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it looks like.
it looks like he's playing a stand-up bass there too, which is interesting.
Yeah. So what? Okay, I don't know about that.
There's a part where he looks like he's sorry.
No, you're good. It looks like the call crashed, so let's just
What?
back out of Zoom real quick and
Okay, hang on.
yeah. See, there we go. It crashed.
Okay, technical difficulties. Stand by.
No, I don't need you to do that. Thanks. Hey, look, it's my flower. Aaron will be right back, everyone. Just give us a moment. Hello, Aaron? Oh, still crashed. Ah, joys. The joys of technology. There he is. Maybe. Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Back.
Began.
Okay.
Well, I know you're all here for the high production quality, so
Very professional. No
spare no
mistakes.
expense. Spare no expense.
There are no expenses to be spared.
All right.
Okay.
So I guess that was the divine in trying to communicate to us that move on. It's like the vaudeville hook.
Might be time.
Might be time for the sundown.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, for sundowning. Okay. All right. Any thoughts to wrap up on that? I don't have any conclusions about the music video. I think like the I don't know, I'll have to think about it more and we'll maybe circle back to it in the future.
Absolutely.
Unless anyone
Yeah, anyone in chat have any
has,
thoughts or ideas, notions?
what do you
Anything we
make of
didn't
all
cover,
this?
disagree with us, agree with us, random thoughts, hypotheses, um,
Pancake
Starbucks
recipes?
orders, pancake recipe, yeah, same, any of the above. Go ahead and cue
Yeah, I'm gonna get
Sundowning. Well, because I mean they might be typing furiously with their like dissertation length hypotheses about various branches of mythological interpretation, Joseph Campbell, Carl Jung, Kierkegaard, who knows? Well,
who knows?
what's this?
Was
Oh,
what?
that's the way you were again. Oh, nothing. I was looking at the YouTube stream and I was like, oh wait,
Oh, okay.
because it was showing the video. It's a little delayed, so
Oh yeah.
okay. So Ryan said it's progression hard to witness while experiencing. That's fair.
Mm,
Like yeah, because it takes like reflection and integration, like to like try to incorporate all these disparate things that are, you know, freaking going on.
yeah. No, I think that's right on.
Bravo, Ryan, as usual.
Yeah. Okay. So, you're welcome. If you've got any other thoughts, please leave them in the chat. I think we're gonna move on
Yeah,
to
we'll circle back
Sundowning.
and hit him if we
Yeah, yeah,
if we
definitely.
can. Also, if y'all, I mean, I hate to be a whore, but I'm a whore. If anybody who's here in the chat or just watching wouldn't mind hitting the little thumbs up button, it funnels more people in here. We can get more discussion going. Doesn't cost you anything. If not, it's all good. But just wanted to
Yeah,
whore myself out for a second.
I guess we should do that more. That's part of the content creation thing. Yeah, I don't know.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. Um,